All right, so this is Jeremy Bemis from BemisAVL.com, and today I'm going to do a walkthrough of Bara Church and Trophy Club. This is the first church that I did any sort of major audio, video, or lighting system setup in. It went from being a setup teardown church that would set up weekly in a high school to a permanent facility and a storefront. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed my time doing it. Spent a lot of time doing it. We've gone through a couple of different phases since then where we've added some new equipment and made some changes. But we'll go through it, and I'll walk you through some of the process that I have when I'm working with a facility. They did have a design firm that actually came in and did the design work for the sanctuary. And then I worked with them on essentially repurposing equipment that we had at that time from our setup teardown days. And I got all of that set up in a more permanent installation here. So again, most of the equipment that we're looking at was repurposed. Up at the video screens, so you can see we actually have projectors up in the ceiling there, repurposed from setup teardown, just shining onto the wall right now. Eventually I would like to get actual screens put in there. You would get a better reflection, a better color mix, or color on the screens themselves if we do that. We do have two projectors, and then in the back we do have a stage display for the performers on stage. In general, on Sundays we did hang these string lights up here. In general, those string lights would be off. Those are generally only used for special occasions. On the lighting side, we repurposed the lights that we had from our setup teardown days, and then we hung them up in the rafters, aimed them. We do have full RGB control. Right now it's set up on 4 separate banks, but we have red, green, blue control on the 4 separate banks that we can control from the board, which I'll show you later. So you can see as we do get a pretty good mix of colors on the stage. They're not the brightest lights, but they do enough to create some ambiance. The string lights, as well as all of those lights, are all controlled on and off and color at the board. For the speakers, what we did is, again, we repurposed our setup teardown speakers. We did build a framework around them and then flew them from the ceiling. They are aimed to give the best spread that we could get using these speakers and given the shape of the room. Behind the main speakers, what you'll see is we do have the subwoofers. So in this case, we actually did fly the subwoofers as well. And the purpose of that was to try to minimize the clutter on the stage itself. One of the second phases that we did was because of the limitations of these speakers and the shape of the room, we were losing some high frequency sound on the front corners of the room, so we were losing it when the pastor was talking there. So it might be a little bit hard to see up here, but as a kind of a phase 2 setup, we did put some additional speakers, repurposed again, up into the rafters. And so we have some of those up on each side, and those help fill out the sound on the sides of the room. All of the control units for everything that's up here on the stage and for the speakers is actually under the stage over here in the corner. So we'll get over here and take a look at it real quick. So you can see down there, kind of, that's where we've got our control unit. So we've got our digital snake down there, and then we've got the amplifiers for the speakers, and we've also got a in-ear monitor system that's connected through all of that. So, power control on everything that's up here as well is actually done through the board in the back. So we can actually turn on and off that entire system under the stage, actually at the board in the back. One other interesting thing, so as part of a phase 2, initially we did not have in-floor boxes. This is something that was added a couple months later when we went to the digital board, which I'll show you in the back. So we do have in-floor boxes. All of them are wired underneath the stage to try to keep the stage cleaner. We have a variety of inputs and outputs in the box, as well as power to the boxes. Total of 4 boxes, 1 on each side in the front of the stage, and then 2 on the sides in the back of the stage. So for the setup of this, we got occupancy on this building about 3 days before our first scheduled service, which was also an Easter service. So we managed to get all of this equipment set up over the course of about 3 days. We've made some adjustments since then, but over the course of 3 days, we did get the speakers flown, we got the soundboard set up, we got the snake run up to the front. We got the basic lights set up, not all of the lights, but we did have light control and colors set up for that Easter service, and then we also had the projectors set up. So it was a very, very busy 3 days. Here in the back, in the soundboard, what we've got is we do have the computer where we can control the projectors, as well as feed sound through the soundboard for music. On the lighting control board here, we have control of lights turning on and off. Which appears to be getting a little bit finicky. And then on the lighting control board below it, we have full control, RGB control of the lights. So we can control whatever we want up front there, which is a lot of fun to mix. And it's all done in different areas. So. Then we got the soundboard. As I mentioned, I believe I mentioned before, the initial soundboard that we set up in here was an analog soundboard, and we had a analog snake that we ran from the back here to the front. We did start having issues with that snake. It was an old snake that was repurposed, so we did actually start having issues with that. At that point, we decided that we would spend money on a digital soundboard, which we then installed. So now we just have one Ethernet cable that's running this up to the digital snake up at the under the stage. So it's a much nicer board, easier to control. Once people get used to it, it's a lot easier for them to use it. Some of the control boxes that we have up here in the sound booth. So we've got our wireless receivers. Some of our wireless receivers back here, we actually do have a couple of them mounted on stage as well. And then we've got the digital mix system. The transmitting unit is back here as well. So the other thing that we did, this entire sound booth area was actually my design, and we do have it set up. It's a little tight on space. Again, it's a relatively small building, but we do have an area where we can do video work here on this side, so we can videotape services. And then we do have quite a bit of storage in the back, which is nice. We've got storage underneath some benches. It's a little cluttered right now. And then we've got lockers, actually, old repurposed lockers back here for a lot more storage. So, overall, I haven't been here a lot recently, but I was talking with some of the people who still run the soundboard here, and they said everything has been working pretty well. They have been making some minor changes here and there, so they've gone to some live video, which is something that we didn't have when I was here. So they're doing some interesting things here. Overall, though, this system has been working really, really well, especially for the most part, reusing and repurposing old equipment. And that's really what I like to do when I work with a facility. Is I'm not really trying to sell a bunch of expensive equipment, because most of the time, equipment that they already have can be used and can be used well. It's just a matter of getting it set up properly.